What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome in to another edition of MVP Games Live right here on Twitch.tv or on YouTube. I am your host for today, along with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
Soapy, if you're not on Twitch right now and you're watching this on YouTube, it's been an interesting pre-show, I will say the least. None of it gaming related, but it has been an interesting pre-show. If you are not in Twitch right now, you have missed conversations about Scottie Pippen and Laura Pippen. You have missed the riveting conversation about Pat Patterson and how Ricky did not know about the weird shit that he's done during his life. And then I think there was one more. Didn't we dive into something else that was a little weird, or are those the main two, Soaps?
No, I mean, those are basically, beside the fact that I also brought up how M.O.D.O.K that one time got knocked out in the lobby by a football player.
You're right, because wasn't it his wife cheated on him with said football player, and then he went to fight said football player? Yeah, so it's been an interesting pre-show, but Soapy and I are here back again, as we are every Monday through Friday, to kind of talk about gaming with you. The first two shows of the week have been very news light, Soapy. We talked about obviously pet peeves on Monday, and then yesterday we dove into a Patreon reader mail where JD asked us about game franchises and should they have a shelf life. So if you missed those, go check them out. They'll be on YouTube. Before we start though, Soapy, we talked about pet peeves on Monday, and I have to share this. This is not a gaming pet peeve, but you know what I thought about today, which would be easily one of my top 3 pet peeves of all time, just in everyday life. So, my question is, do you know what bona beef is? Or is that just an Illinois thing?
I've heard it before, but I don't know what it actually means.
So, bona beef is like, just think of like a McDonald's or something. It's a fucking fast food place. They have like tenders, burgers, beef sandwiches. It's like an Italian place. But they have like burgers, chicken tenders, they have all that shit too. And they have the type of drive-through, every single one has this, where they take your order at the window, after which you have to basically like turn the corner, staying parked next to the curb, and you just park next to the curb and wait for them to bring out your food. And usually they have it to where you're parked by the curb. If someone else gets there, like they only ordered like a coffee or something, they could then drive around you and there's another lane next to you for them to go out. It grinds my gears, Soapy, when people don't pull up all the way to the end. Like they have 2 signs for basically like 2 spots. Every time I go to this place, there is somebody in that drive-thru that is like, I'm just going to pull up to the first one because it's right next to the door. They come out right here, and they basically leave an entire space open to where it's like, what are you doing? Pull up so I can pull up behind you so the next car behind me can get to the window and pay for their food. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's been sitting with me all day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this out on the show. I gotta vent this to people. And I know we talked about pet peeves on Monday. So for me, easily one of my top 3 pet peeves, people that don't pull up all the way in drive-thrus. Don't be that person. Pull up all the way. Be a courteous person. Drive-thru problems, Tim. That's just what it is. You gotta not cause drive-thru problems and keep everything hunky-dory and keep the logistics of everything moving. But my rant over, Soapy's probably sitting there going like, what the fuck is this? This is not even games related.
At least you didn't get stuck in the drive-thru like Weird Al.
Oh yeah, I don't want to be stuck in the drive-thru. Don't want drive-thru confessionals like Weird Al Yankovic. But we got a great show today for you guys. Before we get into everything though, a little bit of housekeeping. Number 1, if you're not in the best community on the internet, there's news for you. You can join it today. Join the MVP Discord if you're on YouTube. That link is down below. Twitch, !Discord. Get you that link into Twitch chat. Like I said, it's the greatest place to be to talk to everyone in the MVP universe. And it's a great time each and every day. We have fucking special conversations in there. We kind of focus group the Discord. So like if we have ideas or like we're going to do something, we did a fucking Discord mock draft for the sports side, stuff like that. We use the Discord for that, so you can join that special community. Like I said, best community on the internet, best community in the world, matter of fact. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids. That's how you go ahead and do that. Again, link down below or exclamation Patreon into Twitch chat. Get you that. Also, thank you to our Patreon sponsors, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. We're on Twitch every Monday through Friday. Twitch.tv/MVPvids is where you can catch the show live every single weekday. But if you ever miss something or there's something extra we do that's not a part of the game's live show, YouTube at MVP Entertainment. Look for the yellow logo with the MVP across it, and that's us. You'll find us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss anything from MVP. And Soapy, we're finally starting the show 5 minutes, 6 minutes into this one, and we got a couple of news things, but I wanted to start the show off with something non-news related. So the end of last week, Friday, I had come up with a sheet like, oh, if we do a show for Black Friday, I have something down, but if we don't, it's fine. We ended up not doing one, so we kind of scrapped that news. But the news was that the Bishop and Hawkeye DLC is coming out in December, and we were going to have the conversation of, is it basically going to bring people back? Could it save the Avengers? Because the Avengers game, since it came out, has not really had any good press, I should say. Like, there are some things people liked about it, but a lot of people just fucking stopped playing it. So what I wanted to do with you is, some would say we're fixing the game, but I basically want to say no. We're completely remaking it. We are going back in time to when this game was pitched. And now you and I are being put into the shoes. We fired everyone at Crystal Dynamics. Sorry, Crystal Dynamics. You're out of jobs. And Soapy and I are the only two that work at Crystal Dynamics. And Marvel and Square Enix are coming to us and saying, guys, we want you to make a Marvel game. We're going to pitch our idea. What would we do if we were Crystal Dynamics and had to make this game? And Soapy, this is where I usually go. Soapy, what would you do? How would you start? But I'm going to throw out the first piece here, because this has been something, Soapy, that's been kind of sitting in my mind. The first question I would ask is, does this game need to be a game that has the online capabilities like we saw in the game? Does it have to be a game like Destiny, where when I played it, I was like, shit, it's the same layout as Destiny. You're teaming up with your friends online. Does it have to have that component? Or should it be a game that doesn't have that component and is just a story game like we see with the Arkham Knight series?
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat that real quick?
So basically, you know how it had its multiplayer, where like you and I could team up if we wanted to? Does it need that? Like, do we have to have a multiplayer, or should it be just single player? Like, you get to play as all the Avengers, but it's more of a single player game like you would get in the Arkham games for Batman.
I don't think it needed a multiplayer.
Okay. I'm on the same page. Or at least
I don't think it needed multiplayer in the way that they did it. Mm-hmm. Like, I will say, I think you could have pulled multiplayer off, but I think the way they went about it, I think, was the wrong approach. Because they took a very, like, looter-shooter aspect of it and tried to just be like, hey, here's the Avengers, you know, here's your favorite Avenger, Iron Man, have fun using items that are bad until you get good ones. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things you didn't need to take the looter-shooter approach to it.
Yeah.
I think if you were going to have multiplayer, you could just have it that, oh, it's ability-based. Like, you can have a certain spec'd-out Iron Man over, like, oh, like, I have a pure DPS Iron Man that, like, all of my things are invested into, like, perk points and stuff like that. I think do stuff like that instead. If you're going to do multiplayer, single player, you can do the looter-shooter stuff. The only thing is, at least make it fucking reasonable. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing is, I don't want to say that, like, oh, it would have been so much better without multiplayer. Because the whole thing is, like, I don't think you ever finished the game, so you don't know the story.
I didn't. Like, I know it's not a Last of Us thing where I haven't been, like, Zero Dark 30. since it came out, which I'm fucking proud of myself for Last of Us because like I should have played that a long time ago.
Yeah, I wonder how many weeks I've heard that.
But Avengers, it's more on the side of I know that it's A.I.M. I know that M.O.D.O.K shows up at the end. Like I know these things about it. Like I wasn't trying to be like, oh no, I can't hear about spoilers. I played the game once, got busy with shit for the channel, and then never got back to it. But yet again, it was the game's fault. Like you didn't pull me back in like you should have.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I think if you focused more on single player, you could have made the story better.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of gaps in the story that are just kind of like, okay, like that's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that really bothered me about it. And especially because, obviously, do I have to warn people about spoilers for a game that no one plays anymore?
It's one of those things where I'll say if you haven't played it right now and you're like, oh shit, like I don't want anything spoiled. I mean, if you're on YouTube, we've got the timestamps down below. You can jump ahead to the next news story that we talk about. But if you're on Twitch, you want to stay around. If you're really that bothered about spoilers, just mute us until the Avengers graphic is not there. But yeah, I would say fucking freewheel, like fire away, Soaps.
All right, so I will say the cool thing at least was the introduction to M.O.D.O.K. and how he slowly built up to it. I mean, obviously, anyone who literally knew anything about Marvel, because the second you see that guy's brain's a little big, it's like, that's M.O.D.O.K.
Okay, so it's basically the guy that was like the main baddie for A.I.M. He ends up being M.O.D.O.K. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically they take the whole approach that like, oh, we hate mutants. We don't like people who have superpowers.
Which is totally like like the thing with that is like we don't like mutants. I was like, where's the X-Men? Like, unless you're gonna like add an X-Men later on, if like Wolverine's gonna make it, like that to me seemed like a way too like fucking like that's an X-Men problem, not an Avengers problem.
Yeah, and it's basically at the end of the game when you beat M.O.D.O.K, M.O.D.O.K falls into the ocean and they're like, oh, we beat him, guys, he's dead. Yeah. Like, I know he ain't dead. That big motherfucker's gonna float to the top.
That big motherfucker never stays dead.
Yeah, like he's got too big of a head. He's fucking buoyant. He's like a buoy, like a buoy that you put out in the fucking ocean. He's gonna float back up. But then they hint that they're like, oh, A.I.M's much bigger than we thought because they're in space. And I'm like, wow, I totally couldn't fucking guess that one. Not at all. They also have a really stupid way of bringing Captain America back, by the way.
How do they bring him back?
He's in a satellite in space, like they're just sucking him the whole time. I don't even know the fucking science behind it, but that's basically just it. He's up there getting sucked in space.
Like, all right, so here's my thing right away. First off, you've hit some good points. The first thing that I think we'll both agree on, because we're remaking this game, is number one, I would say to take off of your idea, like the whole loot system, throw it in the garbage. We're throwing that out the window. Instead, what I'm going to do is kind of take what you said, where each character, the more you play them and progress through the story or because I feel like you can leave the open world aspect of it where like, oh, I'm going to drop in on this war table, drop in on this mission. Cool. You can keep that aspect if you want, because I feel like if, let's say, Square Enix was like, no, this game has to have a multiplayer, what I would do is keep the framework to where it's like, okay, you can team up with 4 of your friends, drop in on this mission, go ahead and do it. Just know that if you're going to play multiplayer, the missions are going to be repetitive. Like, that's something that you're not going to get away from. To where it's like, I know one of your big problems, Soapy, is that when it was the war table and you did all these like separate missions, that it was very repetitive. And to me, I feel like with the multiplayer style, it's going to be like that, but it's more of, I feel like the repetitiveness would not be a bad thing if you are rewarding your players. And how I would do the reward your players, and instead of the looter shooter part where it's like, oh, you might get this gear, You might be rewarded, you might not. Instead, it's okay, the more you play this character, let's say, like, which character did you like to play the most, Soapy?
I liked playing as Thor.
Okay. Soapy wants to play Thor. That's going to be his main. Basically, you mentioned perk points. Like, perk points is fine, or if you want to do, like, I would just say normal XP, to where it's like every level you get this many perk points or this many, like, this much XP to basically spend on your tree. And it would basically be like what we see in Arkham Knight, like we saw in Spider-Man, where it could be an Arkham Knight thing of like, this is your tech. Same thing in Spider-Man. Hey, this is your tech. It could even be something where in Spider-Man we saw this, where some things early on your character are locked, and you need to spend these points or spend this XP in order to unlock it. And then you can even have a leveling up system if you want to. Because for this, we're not going to have a New Game Plus because of the online mode. To where it's basically like, I'm going to play these missions more and more with my friends because I do want to level this character up to max level, unlock everything, get everything up to snuff, so that basically I'm the best Thor player that I can be. I think that would be a way better system than doing the looter shooter part that they just stole from Destiny.
Yeah, and to briefly touch on that before I go to the point that I even told Mad Rogue in chat that I'd bring up,
Yeah.
which is something I completely agree with. I think along with multiplayer as well, I do agree. War table, the idea of the war table itself is fine. The problem with it was every mission was on the same maps.
Yeah.
It was the same mission over and over again, and it just was a hassle. And also, for multiplayer, looter shooters need something to actually grind for. I don't want to do a raid that lasts 4 hours, which is just the other maps in a row. I don't want to just fucking play the same ones over and over again. Like, for instance, obviously MMOs are a whole different animal. Yeah. But for instance, like the raids in those, completely unique areas, some unique enemies that aren't in other areas, and stuff like that, of where, like, that's what they should have done with, I'm trying to remember what they called them in Avengers. But it was basically like, you raided like AIM bases, and they're like, oh, first floor, stand in this square. Floor 2, stand in this square, when they kept doing that whole stupid shit. It should have been like, oh, hey.
It's basically like domination, and they just tell you what area to defend. You gotta, like, basically make sure enemies aren't in this area.
Yeah, and what they should have done for it was, for instance, their unique boss battles. Like, for instance, we saw, I think it was Abomination, was the one you faced when you're Hulk.
Yes, yeah. Really good
have
fight
him
sequence.
Yeah, for instance, in the raids, have it that you four as a party are fighting a beefed up version of Abomination. Have it to where you fight whatever her fucking name is again. I don't remember what her name is.
Yeah.
The
A.I.M.
The one chick that's with. Yeah. Have it if you fight her again. Have it that, like, obviously, this is where you have the whole, like, story spoilers, which was a stupid fucking thing they had in the game to begin with, because we all knew Captain America had to be in the fucking game. He had a moveset.
Yeah, see, that too was fucking stupid of, like, if you're gonna have a character die or you want to tease a death, don't show it in the fucking trailer. Because, like...
Don't also have us play the character.
Exactly, in the beta. Like, it's one... I don't know. I think that was stupid from the beginning. Because, like you said, it's like, it's the fucking thing of, like, well, of course he's there. He ain't gonna die. He's Captain America.
Yeah. But, for instance, have it that each floor is something unique. Have it be something that's not in just the war table maps. Because then, for instance, also have it raids give you the best gear you can... Like, if you do keep the looter shooter stuff...
Yeah.
Like, have it that raids give you the best stuff, but also fix your fucking loot system, because all your items suck.
Well, for ours, we wouldn't be dealing with items. Ours would be the... Yeah. You can call them perk points, XP, whatever you want to do. And we're basically unlocking abilities or special moves and then upgrading the characters with those points that you earned by playing the character.
Yeah. So then, for instance, for the raids and everything, like, they would give you, obviously, a much more amount of XP. And, for instance, different raids would give you different amounts. And, obviously, that'd be more of a system we'd have to iron out.
Yeah.
But to touch on a point that Mad Rogue made. And he said maybe adding a lot of work, but an idea, what about different story path for each Avenger? That's what they should have done. Because the way they told the story could have been interesting if I got to see what other Avengers were doing.
Well,
like, for instance,
their problem was that they focused the story around Kamala Khan, which I understand why they did that, because they want, like, part of me felt like it was to promote the Kamala Khan character to make us like Miss Marvel, because they're going to be coming out with a Miss Marvel Disney Plus. This is Marvel now, not the game side. Just they're coming out with a Miss Marvel TV show, and they're like, "Ooh, we want to get people familiar with her." But there's a part of me that's like, if I am playing an Avengers game, most people are not playing an Avengers game to play as Kamala Khan. I'm sorry. It's to play as Thor. It's to play as Hulk. It's to play as Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow. Like, you don't really think of Miss Marvel when you think of the Avengers, unless you're like a hardcore Marvel fan.
Yeah, and for instance, I think the story could have been a lot more encompassing as well. Of if you wanted M.O.D.O.K to be the final villain, don't show him until like damn near the end. Don't even give us like a slight hint that he's there, or that he was there on A-Day. Like, don't even give him that fucking idea. For instance, I think.
Go ahead.
The main thing, yeah. Like, for instance, I think the thing that would have been cool about the story is explaining how the Avengers ended up where they're at. Because, for instance, obviously Hulk is still, or Bruce made his way to I forget what it's called. I almost said the Sky Ranger, but I don't think that's what it's called. Like the Sky Carrier thing.
The Helicarrier.
Yeah, he made it back there. They could explain why the fuck he went back there, and how the fuck he knew specifically where that one was.
Yeah.
They could explain, like, what Iron Man has been doing. Obviously, some of these would be pretty fucking boring.
Yeah.
Because, obviously it's... Iron Man's just been kind of chilling in a fucking trailer in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Well, here's the thing story-wise, and the one question I'll answer really quick is Mad Rogue says in chat, you think Disney has some influence on the overall game and story? I think they did, either directly or indirectly, because... The number one challenge that Crystal Dynamics, I think, had with this is, what story do we tell? Because as a game maker, game developer, you want to tell a unique story. Well, there have been a lot of Marvel movies that A, have already told a lot of stories. B, there's a lot of stories that Marvel is planning to tell. So it's like, oh shit, what do we do? Like, I don't think Spider-Man didn't have these problems, because it's basically like it's a different Peter Parker than what we're dealing with. Plus, Sony, in their Spider-Man stuff, has already set up the Spider-Verse, so it's easier for basically Insomniac or Sony to go, oh, well, that's just a different Spider-Man. It's a different Spider-Verse. Just like you have the Andrew Garfield, the Tobey Maguire, the Tom Holland. You have the video game universe. And they kind of set that up with Into the Spider-Verse with all these different Spider-Men. But with Avengers, I feel like... I don't know if Disney had it directly, but I think indirectly they did. Because, like, even the Batman Arkham Knight story... Fuck, even Suicide Squad, that game we're going to get. Like, they're telling a story in that game that we're not going to get in the movies, or we haven't gotten the movies, of basically the Suicide Squad is sent on a mission and it's like, oh shit, we got to kill the Justice League. Brainiac has taken over the Justice League. We got to fucking kill these guys. And we got to fucking like go up against Superman. That's why with us, I feel like number one, Soapy, I would not tell a story of the Avengers like getting together for the first time, because I saw that in the MCU when they were building it. So I would say the Avengers are already together. The thing that I want to ask you, though, is for our story, does there have to be an event, like A-Day, that splits them apart?
I think it also mostly depends with that part of, how do you want to introduce M.O.D.O.K? Because there's M.O.D.O.K already a thing by this point.
No, I like your idea. Keep them to the end, because the one criticism I have of the game and the story overall is the Avengers are a team that have so many fucking villains that you can use. And I know there's part of it to where it's like, for example, like a Namor. I wouldn't want to use a Namor in the main Avengers story because I would save him for a Black Panther DLC. And basically I would have the Black Panther DLC basically be a story of Black Panther in Wakanda. Namor and fucking Atlantis is going to war with Wakanda. And basically Black Panther, after dealing with that, has to call in on the Avengers to help him. To where it's like, hey, I'm like, give a little backstory in the DLC of like, hey, well, Black Panther is an Avenger, but he's not a main core Avenger. He's dealing with shit in Wakanda. That's why we haven't seen him in the game. And that's how the Avengers get roped in on that and helping out Black Panther and playing with. Or you could just say, fuck it, like, he doesn't call in on the Avengers at all. It's the DLC is entirely Black Panther, but that's besides the point. So like a Namor I wouldn't use. Sinister Six, wouldn't use them either. That's more of a Spider-Man thing. If Sony actually lets you have a Spider-Man DLC, then I would throw them into that one. But like, I look at it and it's like, you have Ultron, which was a great villain. You got Hydra and the whole like basically conspiracy that done with that. Maybe Hydra you don't do because of the movies, but like Ultron, even though they did a movie on it, I feel like you can still have him in the game. Taskmaster should be a fucking badass to me. He should be the main, like, to me, he should be the main one that you think is the main villain before the reveal of M.O.D.O.K. But basically my point is there should be several villains in this game, because what do the Avengers do? They fight several villains. They're fighting people on all fronts. And then maybe at the end it's revealed, oh shit, M.O.D.O.K's been pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah, and I don't fully disagree with it. I think it's though, I like the idea of A-Day, and I like the idea of seeing the Avengers put into a different situation that we typically would view heroes in.
Okay.
Because this isn't telling the story of, oh, everyone loves heroes. Everyone blames the Avengers for A-Day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, you know, average civilians don't know that they didn't blow up the helicarrier. Like, you know, obviously it's their technology that did it, but they didn't know that the guy who became M.O.D.O.K fucking set the thing off. Like, I like the way that they explained it, because especially, you know, you see that tension kind of come out.
Yeah.
And obviously, in the with the way they told the story, it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if we change the story too much, then you have to slightly change things.
Yeah, but I'm fine with I'm fine with scrapping the entire story and coming up with our own, to be honest with you.
See, honestly, I think the story is fine. I think it was everything else around the story was what needed to be changed.
What do you mean?
Because I think, like, all the gameplay stuff around the story is what I would change. Because the story itself, I think, is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you know, there are things that need to be, you know, made better. Like, I think it's one of those things that just seeing Abomination once in the game was kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just seeing Taskmaster once, kind of dumb.
Oh, it was so stupid. He should be used more.
Yeah, like, just seeing some of the, like, the more minor villains show up once is kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should show up more often.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of, like, a cataclysmic event happening.
Mm-hmm.
The world turning on the Avengers, and the Avengers having to, like, regain themselves in the public eye. I like that idea, especially with the fact of how they showed the descent in the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly between Iron Man and Bruce, because when they explained the story, Bruce is the one that was like, hey, the world doesn't need us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Iron Man was like, hey, Bruce, that's a little fuck that you threw us under the bus like that. You know, and obviously telling that story, and, like, obviously, you know, you could tell that story in the game in multitude of ways,
mm-hmm.
but I think it's more or less of, how do I want to explain this? I think it's more of the way that they faked, air quotes, faked Captain America's death,
mm-hmm.
I think is something that needs to happen, and that's what made that story really impactful. And made it seem as real.
Here's what I would do then. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm gonna piggyback off of what you're saying. What you're throwing out here is, I feel like, because at the beginning they say that, of like Bruce Banner goes like, yes, it's our fault, and like you said, it's kind of shit to throw us under the bus, but I still come back to the way that it was done in the game felt like what I see from every X-Men movie, every X-Men series, because the main point of the X-Men is nobody likes them. Nobody likes mutants. Hell, it was a fucking complete series and characters that Stan Lee came up with because it's related to the like racial injustices that we see today and the racism that you see in our everyday life still of basically like, yeah, people hate mutants. They have to deal with that. Um, what I would do then, and this is linking, yes, they did a movie on it, but I would kind of relate it more to the comic book version of this, is why not wrap it around Civil War? Where keep A-Day similar to what happened. I wouldn't I don't know if I'd focus on Kamala. Maybe I change that, but like, okay, A-Day happens. It's a big thing. Golden Gate Bridge is destroyed. Holy shit, it's the Avengers' fault. But instead of making it a like we hate mutants, we hate superhumans, I would go more off drawing from the comics and Civil War of basically the government side and the public side of why are like our cops and stuff have regulations that they need to follow. Why are these superhumans like Iron Man, Hulk, and everything? Why are they allowed to run free reign just because they have superpowers? And like I would let that be the main motivation because yet again that's drawing from a story that comes from the comic, and then you can have that same kind of um, distress between Iron Man and Bruce. I would flip the roles though, because in the comic version, I mean, you can, if you want to stay true to the comic, flip the roles to where it would be Iron Man that would be on the side of like, no, like superheroes need to be kept in check, where then someone like in the comics, it's Cap that's on the other side. But you could then still do that same twist of, like you said, where you like where Cap died. Cap might not be dead here. Like, I wouldn't say he's dead, but it's one of those things where, because in Civil War this happens, he just disappears. Like, we haven't seen Cap in how many, like, months or even a year, depending on what the time jump is. You still get that same feeling of, like, Cap is gone. We don't even know if he's coming back. Like, that is something then you can tease in a trailer, and it would be like, well, shit, like what happens to make Cap want to quit? And then later on have that reveal. Obviously, he's going to come back. It's a fucking Avengers game. But then he can come back, and it's basically like you're trying, like the Avengers have to come back together to fight the greater evil, which would be M.O.D.O.K.
Yeah, I think it's more or less of I still prefer the idea of A-Day, and it's mostly because then at that point it's not, oh, these people are running rampant. It's, hey, the Avengers just wiped out an entire city by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, like they do take the context out of like Taskmaster did attack during A-Day,
Yeah.
but like once again, it wasn't the bomb that he set up that liquefied the city of San Francisco. Like, I like that idea more than just retelling Civil War. And it's because why would I spend $60 in the
No.
game when I can go pay $30 to buy the movie?
And here's the thing. Maybe I did a bad job of explaining it because Mad Rogue even says that's the Civil War, and that's already been a main story. I'm not saying do a complete rehashing, but I would say basically whatever you're going to do to make the motive of like we hate the Avengers, I would tie it to don't make the motive the side of like the X-Men where it's like we hate superheroes, blah blah blah. Tie the motive to the same motive of Civil War, because then as me as a player, I'm playing this and it's like, okay, I have a reference point from an Avengers comic and I can get on board with this. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think you need to rehash Civil War exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, and the whole thing is, it's more of they don't hate superheroes; they're scared of them. of
Yeah.
where, for instance, they officially saw what unchecked power does,
Yeah.
destroying an entire city. And that's why, for instance, like AIM is, and it's kind of M.O.D.O.K's whole thing of like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't need superheroes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Of AIM will control the world, AIM will protect us. That's what he starts going for. And I think it's one of those things that I think doing that, because like the whole thing is like yes, people like hate the Avengers, and it's kind of reasonable if they destroy an entire city. Like it kind of brings into perspective of like in like every Marvel movie, like literally whole towns will be destroyed and just no one seems to care.
Yeah. It's the taxpayers'
Like this,
dollars.
yeah, yeah. And this time around, it's like okay, they can't just sweep this one under the rug and be like, "Oopsie, we did it
Mm-hmm.
though, we beat them." Like that's the thing I like, and obviously it still is a good way to work Kamala Khan in as well, because I do think she is a very pivotal piece, mostly because she does technically reunite the Avengers in the game. Because they have, I think it's an attack on, or no, it's they get the helicarrier working again, and M.O.D.O.K attacks, and it's basically, Iron Man and Hulk. They have, they still have their whole beef,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically they just start fighting each other because they get pissed off because it's something about how I think it's Bruce says something, and Iron Man's basically like, "Stop trying to act like Cap."
Yeah.
It's basically they're fighting over the fact of like, "Hey, listen," and then
Which
it's
which I like that because something, and this has been kind of in all the iterations of Iron Man, of like, you can tell there's a little jealousy in Tony Stark, that there's kind of like a who's the leader of the Avengers kind of thing that I like being there. That like it gets to Tony because he's a little jealous that Cap is seen as the leader.
yeah, and especially because the main thing their argument's predicated on is the fact that it was Tony's technology that
Mm-hmm.
killed him, air quotes, killed
Mm-hmm.
him.
Yeah.
But then it's basically Bruce was like, no, it's they basically blame each other for like Cap dying. I think that's something that is a really key pivotal point, and that's why I don't want to have it that it's like, oh, it's infighting the Avengers because of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I think A-Day is the perfect event to base the game around.
Okay.
Because, for instance, and also I think once again it does depend on how you want to do the origin of M.O.D.O.K.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this one, M.O.D.O.K is created because of A-Day.
So I got a question, and this is
I may have an answer.
basically, this is me throwing shit at the wall, seeing if it's gonna stick. Taskmaster, I've said before, should have been more badass. I'm thinking about making him show up later in the game, based on like a totally different, like, I would almost have him show up as like if you're gonna do like, okay, this part of the story you're playing as Black Widow, have him go up against her, or if it's like, okay, you're playing as Cap later on, you're going up against, like, have him be a later villain. And one of the changes I'm thinking about for A-Day, to kind of drive home the point of it's the Avengers' fault, because that's the motive we want. We want the people to hate the Avengers or be scared of the Avengers and want them to be kept in check because of what happened at A-Day. What if we kind of throw in and kind of link in Ultron to the fucking A-Day, where basically how you could do that is to help out with A-Day, all the tech that you see, like you even have like fucking I kind of want to say like waiters or like stewards for the event. Basically, Stark Tech has completely, like, they are all the technology you see at A-Day. Thank you to Stark Tech for basically doing what you have to do. And at the time of A-Day, it basically gets taken over by Ultron. And it's like, holy shit, well, who came up with Ultron? Well, basically it's in the comics, it's Ant-Man, which is Hank Pym at the time. Hank and Stark come up with it. but in the movie it's Hulk and Iron Man. Doesn't matter. Basically, people don't even know it's Ultron. They just know that fucking all of the Stark tech that is helping out for the event, basically being the technology for it, has gone rogue. Towards basically like that creates an easy like, oh, we can blame you. It's your tech that went wrong. Yet again, this could add in it can add in a motive for why they're scared of the Avengers. It even adds in an extra motive for, like you said, between like maybe Bruce and Iron Man, of even Iron Man or Bruce can throw out the like it's your, when they're having their fight, it's your fault. It is not our fault. It's you put us in this situation. But that's for later. And basically, because M.O.D.O.K is a technician at A.I.M when he starts out, you find out later on, M.O.D.O.K is the one that while he was working A-Day for A.I.M, he found a little irregularity in the Stark tech, made the switch, and boom, that triggered Ultron. I mean, yeah, again, comic book fans might be a little bit mad because it's technically not the complete origin of Ultron, but like, to me, I feel like Taskmaster's role in A-Day was weak, and I want better for Taskmaster. And I feel by doing this, taking him out, putting Ultron in, you serve the story. You could still use Ultron later because he's connected to M.O.D.O.K then, and then we can have a proper fucking introduction and use of Taskmaster in the story.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good way of doing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of those things that now, obviously, Ultron did already have a movie made about him, so it's one of those things that people who watch the movies,
yeah,
you don't really need to explain them too well,
mm-hmm.
Because they've already seen them. Obviously, it's one of those things, some Marvel fans may not know who M.O.D.O.K is, and you can kind of use this as the way to build them up, of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, yeah, M.O.D.O.K is fucking big dick energy because this guy that you saw that damn near pushed the Avengers to the brink and almost made them lose
Mm-hmm.
is controlling the guy who literally almost beat them.
Well, it's not even like at the time you see it during A-Day, you don't know it's M.O.D.O.K. You just think it's some random technician. And then later on, it comes to that realization of like, oh shit, that was him. And like, to me, that's an emotion that you can trigger into what someone playing the game, of that like, oh shit moment, because you pulled one on them. You got one past them. You got to their surprised emotion.
Yeah, I think that's the approach to go for it. Because what I was saying with that builds up M.O.D.O.K, his big dick energy, is one of those things that when you reveal that later, because like I said, fans already kind of know who Ultron is.
Mm-hmm.
To where then that kind of gives, I don't want to use the word clout, but like it kind of does give, M.O.D.O.K clout, because it's like, oh hey, this guy who already fought the Avengers, granted he lost, but this guy that in the movies pushed the Avengers to the brink is being controlled by another guy.
Oh fuck! I just got it. I know how we do it. This would be changing Ultron's origin story, but fuck it, this would be our version of Ultron. Basically, what happens is M.O.D.O.K, it's kind of like an accidental thing where he has A.I.M develop this virus that is supposed to infect all of the Stark tech. He puts it in, and basically that is how Ultron is made. Same thing. They find out later on the reason why this happened was the virus attacked Jarvis, therefore creating Ultron. And then you link it into Ultron. Jarvis is dead. Like, it basically kills Jarvis, and then that's how Ultron is, and you find out shit. Fucking M.O.D.O.K in our universe created Ultron.
Yeah. You see, like that even Mad Rogue says it, dude. Video game universe, baby, let's go.
I don't think that's a bad thing. That's the thing. They can have an Avengers game, but you can have games linked off of each of these. Like, each of these can have games on their own. I mean, look at Spider-Man. Spider-Man was able to have a game. You could probably come up with a Thor game, an Iron Man game, a Hulk game, a Black Panther game. Maybe not a Black Widow game. Sorry, Black Widow. But maybe like a Black Widow Hawkeye. like have them team up and basically like having a video game, and yet again this is referencing the movies, but like having a video game where it's Black Widow and Hawkeye and they're fucking referencing what actually happened in Budapest, I'd fucking play that. I'd fucking play that in a heartbeat. And then basically what you could then do is like the war table too is on top of these, basically the missions are basically New York City and different areas that come up in the story. And they're basically like, okay, the game is over. You saved the day. But guess what? Villains don't sleep. They don't sleep. There's always crime. So basically it's like, okay, Taskmaster's doing this. Stop him. Okay, this one's doing this. And then there could be even villains that you have in the multiplayer just for a set sequence that, hey, this guy didn't, this nobody, I'm saying nobody because it's not like one of the big baddies, this guy didn't show up in the story. But guess what? We can throw him in the multiplayer. And then that's adding new characters to it and keeping the multiplayer diverse and doesn't make it feel it's a rehashing of missions you might have played in the story.
Yeah. I think we did it. We found a way to...
I think we fixed Avengers.
Or at least as good as you can fix it.
I mean...
Now, obviously, there's probably some problems of the characters have to feel like they play different than each other, but...
Yeah.
That's a logistic problem. We'll push that to the other department. We're here to fix the main part of the game.
But while playing the game, I did not have that problem. I felt that Iron Man was unique. The only ones that I felt that were very similar was Kamala and Hulk. Like, those were the only two that I was like, but like when I was playing Hulk, smashing everything, like, fucking made me feel badass because I was fucking the Hulk, smashing things. Soapy, I did not expect, I expected this conversation to go long. I didn't expect it to be this long. So what we're going to do is we got one more story left. We're just going to jump to the main one that I told you about at the beginning. I said, don't look at the article because I want your basic just like shock reaction. We're going to talk a little bit about GTA 6. And basically, this article is written by Luke Winky on IGN. And I'm just going to read it.
It really do be winky sometimes.
It is winky. It says this. The article is titled GTA 6 Hint or Big Coincidence, investigating GTA Online's latest theory. Fans believe they found a clue in GTA Online that could tell us the GTA 6's setting and location, or it could all just be a coincidence. It's a dirt road that kind of looks like a Roman numeral. In, let's see, in the doldrums of the Grand Theft Auto hype cycle, that alone is enough to get excited about. Here's the basics. Rockstar released a typically cryptic teaser for its next batch of GTA Online content. It's the same trailer, Soapy, that when it came out, I asked you, like, holy shit, like, why aren't they giving us GTA 6? And you're like, they're just going to keep pumping the license to print money until it comes. It's that trailer that I'm talking about. And it says, in it, the ever-exclusive company revealed that the upcoming expansion will add a new landmass to the existing Los Santos map, possibly in the form of some offshore island. During that teaser, the coordinates 38.527, negative 79.6129 briefly appear on screen. Dump those numbers into Google Maps. He put Google Docs, but I think he means Google Maps. And you'll see Middle Mountain Trail right on the shaggy border between Virginia and West Virginia. Zoom in and take it all in. There's a hairpin turn that, when viewed at the precise angle, seems to form something, Soapy, and I'm not going to say what it is. I'm gonna bring it up on stream because you got to show the viewers what we're looking at here. I'll let you guys be the judge yourself. Kind of looks like a VI, doesn't it? Kind of looks like the Roman numeral 6. And it says, at the right angle, seems to form a V, and then an I. V, I. 6. Soapy. Is this a hint? Or is this coincidence? Or are we just looking into something that totally ain't gonna come? Are they trying to tell us that GTA 6 is in development?
This literally sounds like the crackhead theories that, like, this is how I can prove aliens. If you go to these coordinates, look at it from a 45.44 degree angle.
Here's why I think it's in development, Soapy. Here's why I think it's, like, I don't know if we're going to get it this year. I don't know if we're going to get it next year. I don't think we're that close. I think this is a hint. I think it's a hint basically on the fact, why would freaking Rockstar put that coordinate into their teaser if they didn't want someone to do this? If they didn't want us to find it, it seems too coincidental to be just like, oh, it's just there, has no meaning. I think there's something that smells here. If I was Lily Aldrin, I'd be saying, where's the poop, Rockstar? Where's the poop?
Well, and then I can tell you this. Why make a new game when your current game that you have out is literally still making more money than every other game out right now? It's like M.O.D.O.K said in chat. GTA 6 will not come out until GTA 5 Online stops making money.
I don't know.
So
I think it's coming. I think this is way too coincidental. Unless it's telling us, hey, unless it's telling us this, hey, it's not coming out yet, but 6 is on our mind. Or is it just trolling could it just be them trolling us?
It's like M.O.D.O.K said. They know gamers will be paranoid and will make something out of literally nothing.
I don't know, man. I think the coincidence, I don't think they would troll a fan base and risk pissing them off.
Are you sure? You sure about that? Rockstar's been known for trolling home, dog. Because you know how many fake developers or fake former developers have been fired from Rockstar that have leaked information about LA Noire 2 and Bully 2, and at the time Red Dead 2, when Red Dead 1 had just came out.
I mean, but Red Dead 2 then happened, so...
Yeah, 10 years later.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, they've got to be thinking about it. We talked about franchises that should have a pause on it. GTA, they're going to come out with the 6 eventually. I think this is them telling us, hey, it's getting close. It's getting close. Yeah,
I think it's more or less of them just saying, hey, it can be on their mind all at once. Mm-hmm. Okay, congratulations. A good Star Wars movie's on my mind. I'm still fucking waiting.
Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi not doing it for you?
No, or that one stupid fucking video I found of the Space Vikings.
Space Vikings! I love it! Oh, by the way, you brought up Star Wars. Guess what's coming to Fortnite?
Star Wars.
Mando and Baby Yoda, baby.
It'd be like that sometimes. Is Baby Yoda the pickaxe? Do I get to beat him against fucking things to break stuff?
No, I think it's a little carriage. Also, I guess Kratos is coming to Fortnite in Season 5.
Okay, cool.
So, you got man here. I'm going to pull up the Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian. Let's see. Yep, the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda have wrapped the Razor crest straight, blah, 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 blah.
I'm just saying, GTA 6 ain't coming out until people stop playing GTA 5 online. Mm-hmm. AKA, this is a newsflash to everyone who still plays GTA 5 online.
What?
Stop. Stop playing it so we can get GTA 6.
Stop playing it.
Everyone, tell Rockstar to actually give a shit about Red Dead 2 single player instead of their multiplayer. Because multiplayer sucks.
Mm-hmm. So it says here, we're definitely in uncharted territories with Din Djarin and the child can share the same screen, real estate, on Jonesy and the Pancake Man, a.k.a. Mancake. But the real question that everyone's mind is whether you'll be able to suit up and wield the Force as Baby Yoda himself. For now, it appears that the little green one We can still get used to saying his real name. Doesn't have a character skin and will instead function as a tag-along piece of gear that faithfully remains at Mando's side. But we've already seen what our pint-sized hero can do against a giant mudhorn on Disney Plus. So perhaps nothing's off the table in Season 5 rolls along. So yeah, you're playing as Mando. Baby Yoda's just there. But he's in the game. Him and Mando are in the game. They're gonna
the fact that people wanted a Baby Yoda skin, they don't realize that, one, that basically be fucking Odd Job 2.0. Considering Baby Yoda's really fucking tiny. I don't think people realize that.
He'd be like this tall on the screen, just running around.
Yeah. Yeah, he's literal Odd Job at that point.
Oh, that's so funny.
He'd be modern day Odd Job. Imagine that. They have to be like the biggest cheats in gaming history. Like number 2 is Odd Job. Number 1's Baby Yoda in Fortnite.
Oh man, but Soapy, that's gonna do it for us today. We had a jam-packed show today. Thank you guys for tuning in, coming along with us on this ride that we call MVP Games Live. Remember, if you're not in the greatest community on the internet or in the world, I should just say, you can join the MVP Discord either down below in the link or !Discord into Twitch chat. If you want to support us, make sure we can keep doing these videos and better videos for you guys. Make sure you go to patreon.com/MVPvids. That's how you can go support us. You can interact with the show, reader mail, silver and above, and also get other perks for the entire MVP, not just MVP Entertainment. We're on Twitch every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids, but we are also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment, so go find that yellow logo with the black MVP across it. That's going to do it for Soapy and I. We'll be back tomorrow for MVP Games Live. Dave and I will be coming up next for MVP Sports Live on the Twitch, so stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for MVP Games Live. Thank you guys, obviously, again, for everything you do, talking to us in chat, watching the videos, commenting down below, and as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.